The secret, the rain tapped against the window of Lena's tiny apartment, a steady rhythm that matched the anxious beat of her heart. She stared at the pregnancy test in her hand, the two pink lines unmistakable, a year left in her architecture. Program, a thesis to finish, and now this. She exhaled shakily, pressing a hand to her stomach. Daniel would be happy, wouldn't he? They'd been together for nearly 2 years, stolen moments between her studio deadlines and his relentless business meetings. He'd whispered about the future, about building something lasting between kisses and late night. Conversations about design and innovation. But when she arrived at his penthouse that evening, he wasn't alone. A sleek-suited investor stood in his living room, nodding as Daniel gestured to a holographic projection of his latest venture. "Lena," Daniel said, surprised. His smile was warm, but distracted. "This is Mr. Voss. We're finalizing the Singapore expansion." She forced a smile, waiting as they exchanged pleasantries. The moment the investor left, Daniel's face lit up. "It's happening. The board approved the overseas launch. I leave in 2 weeks." Her stomach twisted. 2 weeks. 3-year commitment, he said, already scrolling through contracts on his tablet. "This is everything I've worked for," she swallowed hard. "Daniel, I need to tell you something." His excitement dimmed as she spoke. When she finished, he went still. Too still. "Are you sure?" His voice was hollow. Yes. 3 days later, he was gone. Not to Singapore yet, but from her life. His penthouse emptied, his number disconnected. Only a note remained. "I can't do this. The opportunity is too important." Lena cried for days. Then, with a steel resolve she didn't know, she wiped her tears and whispered to the life growing inside her, "I will never let you feel unwanted." 17 years later, Sophie Hartman Carter adjusted the holographic display in front of her, fingers moving deftly through the air as she manipulated the glowing interface. At 17, she had her mother's sharp cheekbones and stubborn determination, paired with an intuitive grasp of technology that seemed to come from nowhere, or perhaps from the father she'd never met. The algorithm needs refining, she thought, zooming in on a section of code. Her senior project, Solaris Glass, was an AI-driven, smart window system that adjusted transparency and solar absorption based on weather patterns. It was light years ahead of anything her classmates were working on. A notification pinged in. The corner of her vision, she swiped it away without looking, probably her mother reminding her about dinner. Lena had been extra insistent on family meals ever since Sophie got her MIT acceptance letter. "Sophie, you need to see this." Her best friend Myra burst into the garage Turnal lab, waving her tablet like a victory flag. Sophie sighed, pulling off her VR headset. "What's so important that you're interrupting my workflow? Your project just got nominated for the Horizon Tech Prize." Sophie froze. The Horizon Tech Prize wasn't just any competition. It was the most prestigious award for young innovators. Sponsored by Hartman Industries, one of the biggest tech conglomerates in the world. Winning meant funding, mentorship, and a direct pipeline to investors. And Hartman Industries was founded by Daniel Hartman. Sophie took the tablet, staring at the email. "Sophie Hartman Carter, finalist Horizon Tech Prize. Ceremony. June 15th, San Francisco." Mira grinned. "It's good, Mom's gonna freak." Dinner that night, Lena set down her wine glass, her face unreadable as she read the nomination email. "The Horizon Prize?" Her voice was carefully neutral. "I didn't know you submitted your project." "I didn't," Sophie said, watching her mother closely. "Mr. Chen entered it." "But that's not the part I'm curious about." Lena's fingers tightened. Slightly around the stem of her glass, "Hartman Industries is hosting it," Sophie continued. "The CEO is Daniel Hartman." A beat of silence. "Is he my father?" Lena exhaled, then nodded. Yes, Sophie had suspected her mother had never hidden the fact that her father was alive, just absent. But hearing the confirmation still sent a strange jolt through her. "Did you know about this?" Sophie pressed. "No." Lena's voice was firm. "I would never interfere with your work like that." Sophie believed her. In their house, honesty was non-negotiably except when it came to the shadow of The man who had left before she was born. You don't have to go if you don't want to, Lena said softly. Sophie tilted her head. Why wouldn't I want to? 'Cause Daniel will be there. Sophie leaned back in her chair, considering. Good. It's about time we met. 2 days later, sleek, embossed envelope arrived, not just for Sophie, but for Lena as well. Inside, a handwritten note from Daniel's executive assistant, Ms. Carter. Your pioneering work in sustainable architecture has caught our attention. We'd be honored if you'd join our Future Cities panel at the Horizon Gala. Lena let out a dry laugh. Caught our attention? After 18 years, Sophie snatched the invitation, scanning it. You're a featured speaker. Presenting Solaris's glass, Lena studied her daughter, brilliant, fearless, and about to step into a spotlight that would force Daniel to face the past he'd run from. So, Sophie said, eyes gleaming. Are we doing this? Lena exhaled, then nodded. We're doing this. What Daniel couldn't know, was that Lena's firm had just been approached by Meridian Tech, Hartman Industries' biggest rival. They wanted to license Solaris glass for their next-gen buildings. The unsigned contract sat in Lena's office safe. This gala wasn't just a reunion. It was a reckoning. The night of the gala, the Hartman Industries skyscraper glittered against the San Francisco skyline, its glass facade reflecting the city lights like a beacon of wealth and power. Sophie adjusted the strap of her midnight blue gown, her stomach fluttering as the elevator ascended to the penthouse ballroom. You okay? Lena asked her, forest green dress flowing elegantly around her. Sophie nodded. Just nerves. Lena squeezed her hand. You'll be brilliant. The elevator doors slid open, revealing a scene straight out of a tech mogul's fantasy crystal chandeliers, holographic displays, and the most powerful investors in Silicon Valley. Mingling with champagne flutes in hand, and then across the room, Sophie saw him. Daniel Hartman. Tall, impeccably dressed, his dark hair streaked with silver at the temples. He stood near the stage, laughing with a group of executives, completely unaware that his past was walking straight toward him. Sophie's breath hitched. She had his eyes. Daniel's world stops. Daniel had just finished reviewing his speech when he glanced up and froze. Standing near the entrance was Lena Carter. 18 years had only sharpened her beauty. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant twist, her posture regal, her green dress a statement of quiet confidence. And beside her, a young woman with his eyes. His assistant, Claire, leaned in. That's Sophie Hartman Carter, one of our Horizon finalists. Her Solaris glass project is revolutionary. Daniel's throat went dry. Hartman-Carter. He didn't need a DNA test. The girl was unmistakably his daughter. The first word Sophie felt, his gaze before she saw him approaching. Daniel Hartman moved through the crowd like a man walking toward a ghost. Lena, he said, his voice rough. You look incredible. Lena's smile was polite but distant. Daniel, congratulations on the gala. His attention flickered to Sophie. And you must be Sophie. Sophie extended her hand, her grip firm. Mr. Hartman. I had no idea you were one of our finalists, he said. Funny how that happens, Sophie replied smoothly. When you don't know someone exists. The air between them crackled. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it as the event coordinator tapped his shoulder. Mr. Hartman, you're needed on stage, he hesitated. Torn Lena gave him a small, knowing nod. Go. As he walked away, Sophie exhaled. Well, she muttered. That was awkward. The presentation when Sophie took the stage to demo Solaris glass. The room fell silent. Her voice was steady, her tech flawless. The holographic display showed her AI system in action windows, adjusting in real time to optimize energy efficiency. Daniel watched from the front row, its expression unreadable. But when the crowd erupted in applause, Sophie caught it. Pride, raw, unfiltered, and unmistakable. The confrontation after the ceremony, Daniel cornered them near the terrace. Sophie, your work is extraordinary, he said. I'd love to discuss integrating it at Hartman Industries. Sophie crossed her arms. Meridian Tech already made an offer. Daniel stiffened. its biggest competitor. Lena smirked. I see, he said, carefully. Regardless of business, I save it, Sophie cut in. You don't get to swoop in now just because I'm extraordinary. Where were you when I was learning to walk? Or when Mom was working 3 jobs to keep us afloat? Daniel's jaw tightened. I was a coward. I can't change that. But I'd like to try. If you'll let me. Sophie studied him, then glanced at Lena. Her mother gave a tiny nod. You're called Sophie. Exhaled. Coffee? Tomorrow. No business talk. Daniel's shoulders sagged in relief. Name the place. The next morning, Sophie arrived at Revelry Cafe 15 minutes early, choosing a corner table away from the bustle of the espresso machine. She ordered an iced chai latte, her favorite tanned, pulled out her tablet, pretending to review notes, so she wouldn't have to sit there, waiting, like some hopeful kid. She wasn't here for a father. She was here for answers, at exactly 10 a.m. The door chimed. Daniel walked in, dressed more casually than last night, dark jeans, a fitted navy sweater, no tie. He looked human, less like the untouchable tech titan from the gala and more like someone who might have actually once been part of her mother's life. He spotted her immediately. You're early, he said as he sat down. So are you. A beat of silence. The barista called out an order. Someone laughed too loudly at the next table. Daniel exhaled. I don't know how to do this. Sophie arched a brow. What? Have a conversation? This. Conversation. He rubbed his temple. I rehearsed a dozen speeches last night. None of them felt right. Try the truth. He met her eyes. The truth is, I panicked. Your mom told me she was pregnant, and all I could think was that I wasn't ready, not for a kid, not for a family, not for anything that might derail the company I'd just started building. He shook his head. I told myself I'd come back when I was ready. But then years passed, and the longer I waited, the harder it got to face what I'd done. Sophie stirred her drink. Mom never tried to contact you? No. And I told myself that meant she didn't need me, that you were both better off. He grimaced. Convenient logic for a coward. Sophie studied him. She'd expected excuses, justifications, maybe even anger. But this raw, uncomfortable honesty threw her. You missed everything, she said quietly. My first steps. My first day of school. Every birthday. Daniel's throat worked. I know. And now you show up because I invented something you think is valuable? No. His voice sharpened. I showed up because you did. Last night, watching you on that stage, he cut himself off, dragging a hand over his face. God, Sophie, you're remarkable. It has nothing to do with me. It's all you. All Lena. Sophie's chest tightened. She'd prepared for guilt trips, for grand gestures, for hollow apologies. She hadn't prepared for this, for the way his voice cracked when he said her mother's name. The barista called out another order. The cafe hummed around them. Finally, Sophie leaned forward. Here's the deal. I don't need a dad. I don't need your money or your company. But if you want to be in my life, you'll have to prove it's about Manat. Your guilt, not my tech. Daniel nodded slowly. What does prove it look like? Start small. She pulled out her phone. This is my MIT move-in date. If you're there, we'll talk again. Daniel took the phone, his fingers brushing hers the first time they'd ever touched. I'll be there. Sophie stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. We'll see. Id walked out without looking back. Later that night, Lena's apartment. Lena handed Sophie a mug of tea. How was it? Sophie curled up on the couch. Weird. He's not what I expected. Lena sat beside her. What did you expect? A villain? Or a saint? Not just a guy who screwed up and knows it. Lena smiled faintly. People are rarely one thing. Sophie chewed her lip. Do you think he'll actually show up for Movin Day? Lena's gaze drifted to the window, where the city lights flickered. I think, she said softly, that if he doesn't, it's his loss, not yours. Sophie leaned into her mother's side. For the first time since that Horizon invitation arrived, the knot in her chest loosened. Whatever happened next, she'd be okay. MIT move in Dothan, Massachusetts air was crisp with early autumn as Sophie hauled her last duffel bag out of Lena's car. Around them, students and parents buzzed with excitement, laughing, hugging, taking pictures in front of the iconic dome. Of Building 10, Sophie scanned the crowd. No sign of Daniel. Of course not, she thought, pushing down the sting. Why would he need help with that? A familiar voice. She turned. Daniel stood there, dressed in a simple MIT hoodie and jeans, hands shoved in his pockets like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be here. "You came," she said. He nodded. "I told you I would." For a second, they just looked at each other. Then he reached for her bag. 3 hours later, dorm room set up. "Goodbye," said. Lena had left for her flight back to San Francisco with one last tight hug and a whispered, "Call me tonight." Now it was just Sophie and Daniel, standing awkwardly outside her dorm. "You hungry?" he asked. "There's a decent pizza place down the block." Sophie hesitated, then shrugged. "Sure." "Over pepperoni and Coke?" he surprised her. "I looked up your mom's work," he said. "That urban greenhouse project in Detroit, it's genius." Sophie's eyes narrowed. "Are you trying to butter me up?" "No, I'm trying to know you, and you're half her." He took a bite, chewed. "For the record, I always thought she'd change. The world, I just didn't realize she'd do it without me." Sophie studied him. This wasn't the slick CEO from the gala. This was someone quieter. Real. She made a decision. "Meridian's offer is good," she said abruptly, "but I haven't signed yet." Daniel went very still. "Why not?" "Because I wanted to hear yours first." He set down a slice. Hartman Industries would give you full creative control. It's no bureaucracy, no investors breathing down your neck. And he exhaled. "And I'd get to see you in meetings, watch you grow, even if it's just as your boss." Sophie's chest tightened. "That's not enough," she said softly. Daniel's shoulders slumped till she reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. "If you want to be in my life, it can't be through some corporate deal. It has to be because you're my dad. No strings?" His fingers trembled under hers. "I don't know how to do that," he admitted. Sophie smiled. "Good thing I'm a fast learner. You can be too." Epilogue: 1 year later, Sophie's Solaris Glass launched as an independent startup. Hartman Industries and Meridian Tech both invested with zero stipulations about family dinners. Lena signed with Meridian. After negotiating a clause that let her collaborate with Hartman Industries on sustainable urban projects, purely business, she insisted. Daniel didn't argue. Every other Sunday, Daniel flew to Boston. Sometimes they talked tech. Sometimes they argued about movies. Once, after too much ice cream, he cried, telling her how proud he was. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. As Sophie stood between her parents at her first college award ceremony, she realized some foundations take years to build, and the strongest ones start with truth.